Okay, so we'll jump back in. This is Mainframe to Main Street team.
Sorry for the technical difficulties the first time. So we did a project on Spectre, which is a model to predict housing displacement before families all disappear. I am Jeremy Miley. I go to UNF. I'm a computer science student.
I'm Olivia Chrisley. I'm also a computer science student at UNF.
Let's get the show on the road. So the case that we chose was case 1, which is predicting housing displacement risk. If you look at the image here, it shows you which areas inside Jacksonville have the highest housing displacement risk. Now, why do we even bother choosing this goal? Well, for starters, we have a little experience with machine learning. Like she experimented with many models, I experimented with the AI side of it. And we just thought that this aligns with our skill set the most. And another reason that I've done it is kind of personal. Families lose their houses almost every day. If you look, over 1,200 families lose their houses. Communities sometimes get ruined. They get little to no warning at all. Less than 6 months before your rent rises up for profit, or before maybe they lose their job and things just happen. Now, who's impacted? Mainly renters, low-income households, children, schools, and entire communities.
All right, so for our solution, we wanted to look at what factors show that displacement is happening and what communities are the most vulnerable. So we found 3 key factors, which were subsidies expiring, unemployment, and something else. And we created that composite measure. And we used a logistic regression model to look at census data and find out what are the strongest predictors of housing displacement. Right. From the data sets that we were given, there were over 100 variables, and we looked at the research to try to narrow down what do we know are the communities who are most vulnerable to housing displacement. So we narrowed that down to 8 independent variables.
So for this one, it's just a description of the method that we use. What Olivia said, we used a logistic regression model using binaries, 0s and 1s. So if you look at the graph here, it goes up. This is based on what we did with our model Spectre. And throughout all the hundreds of variables that we went through, we settled on these variables from household income, the income disparity, percent of women renting, and people without a high school diploma. Education is very important. And it's one thing I definitely discovered a lot is that people either without a college diploma or a high school diploma, they tend to suffer the most from housing displacement.
The rate of false negatives was kind of bad, so that's an area for improvement. And some of the variables that we ended up using in our final model, we had previously wanted to train the model on all 25 cities so that we could use that deeper set of data to make predictions for an individual city. But we didn't have the data at this time for all 25 for the variables we ended up using.
So these are some of the conclusions. So what could take Spectre to the next level? as Olivia mentioned before, we kind of ran out of time and we only got data on Jacksonville and didn't get an opportunity to compare. But one thing that we could do to take this further, if we have more resources, is we can add more data, because I believe a group similar mentioned this, but I've also noticed that areas with high crime rates tend to have a higher housing displacement. But unfortunately, we couldn't find any data sets that kind of spoke on that topic, so we just had to kind of just blow it into the wind. Now, what sponsors, let's say, could we do? I would say talking to, for example, the staff here. For one, people with connections to people who make the policies, or who has more maybe eviction data, or just more in-depth data, because there was a lot of data that's kind of closed off and you can only get through connections. Now, some of the limitations of Spectre, we're limited to only federally assisted housing data, and we also have to rely on historical data, because one thing about the government, they take a long time to process data, then submit it to the public, and there's a lot of red tape for us. Ooh, wasn't supposed to end, but sorry about that. Yeah, and we say we want to do real-time data integration so that as, let's say maybe every couple months or so, we can maybe get at least a small snippet of data added to Spectre, and then Spectre can more easily calculate and predict when housing displacement is going to happen, so that cities will have more of a fighting chance. There'll be more morale inside communities, and it will just be overall happier for communities, because a lot of people, let's face it, we're struggling. We need income. It's just the basic things. Thank you for your time.
I'll ask a quick one. Could you explain on the logistic regression, I think it's slide 5, just what the category 1 and category 2 if you don't mind?
Yeah, sure. Was communities that we've identified as having a high risk of displacement. And the category 0 is ones that we've identified as not having a high risk.
Thank you.
No other questions?
Thank you.